Hey, good morning, everybody. We are live on the Fireside Chat, and I just wanted to introduce my special guest today. It's Jen Montone, who's the principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra. And let's go live with Jen Montone. All right, let's see. I can find her. Okay. And we have a few people online today. So we're going to go online with Jen. So, yay, we're waiting for Jen to join us. In the meantime, I'll say hi to some of our friends, Emily Whitaker and John Ye, our associate principal clarinet player of the Chicago Symphony. Let's see who else is. Bob Lauer. Awesome. Great to see you. And who else is online? Wow, we have a lot of people. Carly Kaminga, Mariella, great to see you. Hello to Germany. Hello, Kaza. Great to see you. Let's see if we can connect with Jen. For some reason, it's freezing on me. Technology sometimes doesn't like me. But we have a great chat today. We have a lot of shared experiences together. I know Jen was associate principal horn of the Dallas Symphony. Jen has also been principal of the Philadelphia Orchestra since, I think, 2005 or 2006. And so we overlapped a little bit in Philly. I think I came over to Philly and, hey, Jen, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Great to see you today.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I can't wait to talk to you. This is going to be really fun.
Likewise.
I was just telling everybody how we've our paths have kind of, I mean, you've been on the path a little bit longer than I have, but like you've been a huge kind of, mentor to me and a huge support. And yeah, our paths have crossed numerous times in my career, and I feel really grateful for you on my path. So
I feel the same way. It's a beautiful thing.
oh man, do you remember the first time we met?
It was a long time ago. Was it when you?
It was 2007.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and I came to Philly, and I don't know if I was staying with Joe or why. Maybe I did an audition in Philly for a summer music festival. I don't think it would have been Marlboro at that point, but maybe I was in New York, and I was auditioning for a music festival in New York, and then I came down to Philly for like a day. And I saw Joe, and he's like, "Yeah, you should. You know how Joe talks. Yeah, you should go talk. You should go play for Jen." And Joe is gonna like hate me for like trying to impersonate him. He's like, "I don't talk like that." I was like, "No, you don't talk like that, Joe."
I remember that lesson. I was like, "Oh my God, who's this guy?"
Like I remember, like I was like so nervous to play for you. And I remember how nice you were. And I remember how supportive. I was like, "This is the Philadelphia principal horn?" I was like, "She's so nice." I don't know what I was expecting. It's just like someone who's like, not friendly and not personable. And, and yeah. And then since then, you've just like helped me out. I remember I came out and subbed with the Curtis Orchestra in 2008. And I stayed at your house that week.
Yep.
And it was like, I remember making you breakfast, like omelets, because I'd worked in a breakfast restaurant. I was like, "Hey, I can make omelets." You're like, "Dave, it's like 6 in the morning." I was like, "I know."
Oh, it's so fun. I love that about our field, like how we just all of our paths keep crossing and just like all the love that's there. It's just the most beautiful thing ever.
I mean, and I've felt it even more this past 6 weeks or 8 weeks, however long we've been quarantined now. Yeah. Just like how interconnected and how much those relationships like in our field have meant for me. And
yeah,
I think our paths have crossed at least 4 times just online over the past for a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, yeah, I hope I hope everybody's sort of feeling that like love and the community like that we're in. I think it keeps us feeling energized to actually like try and care and keep working and, not get too despondent during it all. So
speaking of love, I have a couple hellos to share, but one of the big ones is from John Hamill in Japan. So yeah, John, I was talking to John today, and John wanted me to give you his best and just to say hello. And
yeah. How's he doing?
He's good. I mean, he can't practice in his apartment, and he said he's been staying in like 95% of the time, except to like go to like, the grocery store or something.
Oh man,
So
yeah. That's the thing. Live in a city, you can't you can't practice very much in apartments.
yeah, absolutely. So we have a few people who are online that we should definitely give a shout out to. Philadelphia Orchestra Instagram, they joined and they want to say hi.
Sweet.
And then we can just scroll through these comments. Natalie Fisbo says hello.
Nice.
We've got Joanne Sem Blanc Cat. Speaking of cats, this cat has to say hello every chat that we're on. This is Mumu. She's the German cat. So she's a part Maine Coon cat, part
Gorgeous.
No, not Maine Coon. I'm sorry. She's a Persian, part Persian and part like calico.
Nice. Actually, I just saw somebody's name is Who Stole My Hamster?
No,
And
come
I was
on.
like, oh, I should have brought my hamster.
Do you have a hamster?
I do, yes.
Oh my gosh, that would be
He's really
food for
cute.
mine.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Bamster.
Bamster
the hamster. Yeah. No, both of my kids like became infatuated with the idea of having hamsters, and so of course we got them each one, and then one died. So now we're down to one, but we'll probably get another one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think they need friends, right? Like they're just
there
like
he
us.
is.
They need little friends.
Oh,
But
Johnny,
I was
is that you?
initially
that might
going
be John
to get a
Hamill.
hamster.
He calls me Janiqua.
I was initially gonna get a hamster when I was in Germany, and then I don't know, it just turned into me getting another cat. So
Right, cats are awesome.
Yeah. So do we have anyone else that we need to shout out to? Anyone that you want to say hi to? Jamie Reynolds says hi.
Yes, and Dana. Thanks, guys, for coming.
We've got Four Flutes, One Eye. And that's a Melody from Taiwan.
Wow.
Oh, wait. And then who else?
Oh, that is John Hamill.
Is John Hamill?
Hamster. Yeah, he's the only one that calls me Janiqua.
So wait, so that's really John Hamill, like the hamster? Someone stole my hamster.
Who stole my hamster?
I'm following him. Takao Maestro Kanayan from Japan says hi. So yeah, Maestro's been watching almost every chat. So it's just awesome to have like this support from all over the world. Yeah. And then Julia Choi.
Yay.
Yeah. And then Hoytshorn. So I guess that's Tyler Hoyt. And then Illegal Jazz Horn. Hi from New York. Man, everyone's out to see you.
Hi guys. It might be you.
I think it's you. I mean, I do this like 3 times a week, and I don't ever get all this.
Great programming going on. It's awesome. Plus, your duets are amazing.
Oh man, we gotta do one. We gotta do a duet.
We're totally do one.
They're actually like harder to put together than you'd think with like the distance, because everyone's got a different acoustic in their room, right? Yeah. So I was trying to do one with a friend the other day, and his acoustic was a little bit dry, and mine is really reverberant, and I have this like fan that's just going like I'm in a wind tunnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's just different acoustics. Like it just sounded like he was like, in a galaxy far, far away.
Right. Oh man, yeah. Jeff Lang's son, Johannes, is a great recording engineer, and he's been putting together a lot of the Philadelphia Orchestra ones that we've been doing. We're all putting together all these different videos, but it's so humbling to record these things because you're like taking take after take after take, and then listening back, and you're like, nope, not good enough. Ah, it's like,
oh man, it is humbling to like, really, and especially like,
it's really good for you.
I'm not in the habit of playing like huge chunks of orchestral pieces.
Yeah.
Like we did Beethoven 3, I think the 3rd movement up to the trio. Nice. With the Chicago Symphony. We were gonna release that, and then for some reason some of the videos didn't line up or something, so they didn't.
Right. You're like, I put in a lot of work on that.
Yeah. So. And then let's see, Mariella says, love the duets and the hair. I'm sorry guys, like seriously, like my hair is just, it's so long right now.
It's the Corona look. Everybody's got that. It's like all the girls are getting longer and all the guys are getting like,
a little more volume.
Getting higher. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So
no, but it's good though. I feel like the younger, all the students, I think I'm starting to see more and more of like, people playing with each other and people playing on top of themselves, which is great. That's like such a good project for all of us. It's like, keep us all playing.
Do you have any projects that you want to record?
Yeah, I have a number of them that I'm working on. So let's see. Uh, the Mason Jones book of like, I think yeah, solos for the horn player.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which is like really old school. But one of my teachers from high school, Sylvia Alamina, who is second horn in the National Symphony, she's been talking to me forever about like you should record these for, you know, younger students, for like, you know, beginner through high school or whatever, because a lot of them are, you know, beautiful like little pieces that we don't know, like the aria from Stradella and I Attempt from Love Sickness to Fly. It's like it's all just like arranged by Mason Jones, and then there's normal stuff. There's Villanelle in there and Mozart. You know, there's like yeah, Sylvia. Yeah, there's like renditions of, you know, versions of different standard pieces that a lot of college students play as well. So I thought that would be a really good summer project for me. So I'm going to start doing that soon. So I
Do you
just
have
asked a pianist to play along. He already laid down his tracks.
really?
So yeah, Hugh Sung laid down
Oh
the
yeah, of
tracks for
course, from
that.
Curtis.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was
exactly.
there when
And
I
he's
was there.
amazing. And he
Yeah.
can play anything. So I was like,
Yeah.
you are like, it's like for you, that will not be tough at all to whip off like, you know, 15 horn pieces. So anyway, so he's willing to do it, which is amazing. So
Oh man,
yeah. And
what a
then
great project.
yeah, and then the orchestra keeps on coming out with things that they want us to do, which is amazing. Like I love all the creative content that's coming out of the virtual Philadelphia Orchestra. Like it's so exciting to actually have so much to like try to do and, you know, keep that going. So it's
Wow.
fun.
Wow, I'm glad you have
Yeah.
projects that you're working on. You know, that's I think it's really important during this time to
Yeah.
we might not have the same schedule, right? Like the same like, hey, I got rehearsal at 10 a.m. I've got a concert on Thursday night, Friday night,
Right.
Saturday night. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, projects, I think that's like one of the things that keeps me motivated is just having like a project and then having like you know, something I'm excited about working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just go into vacation mode, which is fine too. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's good also. Like,
Yeah.
I think I came in kind of into the whole, you know, Corona time. Like, I came in kind of hot and heavy, and I did like a live recital, and you know, actually for our local musicians too. And then I
What?
recorded a bunch of stuff for the orchestra real quick off the bat. And then I got exhausted and kind of burned out, and I was like, okay, take a minute. And then I
Yeah.
just kind of taught for a couple weeks and just like chilled out, and then now I'm like feeling it again. So yeah, I think it's okay if we're all like following our own little roller coaster, but it is good to like have some short-term and long-term goals to like be going for.
Was that recital, was that a solo recital, like all solo works for
It
horn?
was, and I did it with MIDI stuff. I couldn't figure out solo, like horn by itself pieces that I
Mhm.
liked well enough to do, or not liked well enough to do, but that I felt comfortable enough and
Yeah.
prepared enough to do. There wasn't a, it was like, you know, do it a week from, you know, like I agreed to do it a week before I did it. So it was like I needed to kind of have pieces I knew pretty well to like actually feel confident to do it live. So it was like Beethoven Sonata, Franz Strauss Concerto, Nocturno, Franz Strauss Nocturno, and Saint-Saëns Romance. And
Which one?
then
The one in E or the one in
the easier one,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
the one that does not go up high at the end. I forget. I
Yeah,
think it's,
that
yeah.
yeah, that's the
But
one in
anyway,
E. Yeah,
yeah, and you can
that's
do like you can play along with like the MIDI recordings, or maybe some of them are live actual pianists, I think, like on piano. But yeah, on YouTube they've got all these pieces that are up there, you know, without horn, like just the piano accompaniments on there, and you can play along with them. Although it was like a comic skit, like I felt like the Three Stooges. I kept on getting behind the piano, and then I would try to adjust, and then I get ahead of the piano, and I'm like, ah, like you're used to playing solo pieces and like they follow you, and we're really spoiled that way. So I'm like, I'm
yes.
trying to follow and like intuitively like, you know, kind of connect in a chamber music way with this recording that is not moving. So it was pretty comical, but it was good for like resilience. Like I feel like anytime you're doing these things, you're like, okay, let's try that again. All right, you know, and it's good for, it's humorous and good practice.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I think it's Steve Park's website where you can find or Steve Park's YouTube channel where you can find a lot of the horn and MIDI recordings.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I mean, and it's good, like if you had a solo, like, you know, for students, if you had a senior recital you were supposed to do, or like even like solo and ensemble that you were supposed to do and you couldn't do it, it's like a good opportunity to like, you know, kind of do that. And a couple of my students have actually done Zoom recitals for their senior recitals at Juilliard, like grad recitals, and they invited some of their friends and family members and stuff. And I think it was a really sweet occasion for them. You know, it's like a little bit scary, like a recital is, but also really like heartwarming and lovely. And good way to like, you know, finish up your time somewhere. So
I mean,
anyway,
I
at
can't
least we've got
imagine
resources.
being a senior right now and being like, all right, no graduation. All right, no
Right.
title. Okay, all right, let's join the workforce. Oh man, I can't join the workforce. Hey, let's go to a music
Right.
festival. Oh wait, you know, it's like
Can't go there.
everything's canceled. And so like, I think it's good and bad because I found myself just kind of like running from one thing to the next. And I didn't feel like I was home much. Like I felt like I was going, I was at the hall mostly practicing, you know, because that's, you know, I'm like close enough to the hall where I practice at the hall. So I'd get up in the morning and I'd go practice before work, and then I'd just be there pretty much all day until I was, you know, home. And, you know, with rehearsals or concerts, and then, you know, come home for like a meal or something in between. But yeah, I feel like I have this gift of time and this gift of perspective. Could you talk about that change in perspective for you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Yeah, I'm the kind of person, I tend to keep myself quite busy. And I don't give myself a whole lot of time to think or like self-process. And I think that's the challenge, but also the blessing with this time. I find it hard because it makes me think about things. That's scary. So it's like, oh, but yeah, it's actually, it is a gift. Like, absolutely. I have two small kids, so I'm not, you know, there's not that much time, but I will, especially once the school year is done for the Curtis and Juilliard students, like I will have some time on my hands. And yeah, I think it's interesting for all of us to try to pace our own lives in a balanced way, you know, like whatever feeds your heart and helps keep you like happy as a human, and then also happy as a musician and also growing. And so it's like that balance, and it's also personal. Like I've had a couple times when I've been off from work for two kids, and then also for a back injury and also for a jaw injury. So I've been off from work 4 different times before this.
Oh man,
So it's
and
not super new to me. Like I
was that
know,
all with the Philadelphia Orchestra, or was that in one was in St. Louis, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I had a car accident, and then there was a jaw injury that came immediately, and that was in St. Louis. And
Oof.
that was the longest one. That was about 8 months that I was off.
Oh man.
And then the two kids was when I was in Philly, obviously.
Hmm.
And then the back injury was sort of a tail end of that car accident, and it kind of developed over time. And then that was about 3 years ago. So anyway, so like I feel like I've learned over the course of all that. I think I've learned both how to help be okay with just spending time like with family and with myself and with friends and just being like a regular person and finding that that's okay, but then also trying to be efficient with time on the instrument and trying to not you know, kind of like bang my face in, don't play the same things over and over again, like instead try to have good projects that are interesting and practice them mindfully, and you know, like work in a way that is like rewarding but doesn't blow your face out. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing to try to find, and then
Yeah.
it's just trial and error on all of that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it is, right? I mean, it's
like,
like, you know, you just said so much in that, you know, that last 2 minutes that I'd love to just dissect a little bit. I mean, first of all, you said the word balance. And I mean, I feel like balance is one of those things that we're always working on, and it is trial and error.
yeah,
You know, it's like, how do I find out what works for me? Well, I try and I find out what doesn't.
yeah,
You know, and that's
yeah,
the way really for me to figure out, like, okay, if this doesn't work, then what does? And that's how I found out, like, a warm-up routine, which I got from you. Like, it's your
sure.
warm-up routine. I mean, it's like, you know, that's like my daily warm-up routine. And you know, I've been so grateful because it's like, you know, I get to hang out with you in the morning, basically, you know, doing your routine.
Well,
So
you took it and ran with it. I mean, yeah, it was funny because I was watching and I was like, this is amazing. I love everything he's saying. This is great. And then you're like, oh, I originally got it from you. And I was like, well, yeah, but you actually, you did what I think all of us do, which is like we take influences and then we let it like percolate in ourselves. And
yeah,
then what comes out is a very personal approach. And so like to the topic of warm up and the topic of balance, like we had Freydis come to a horn class the other week, and it was amazing because she was talking about how for her, if she plays the same warm up every day, she gets super bored and mindless about it. And so
this
she
is
changes it
so
up to
let's
be,
slow down for a second. So
oh yeah,
Freudis re Vecra,
very,
or
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
and she is like the Norwegian horn goddess, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
like
it's
the
like
grand
the
dame of
greatest,
horn, like
like,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
saying that she practices a slightly different warm up every day,
Oh,
but she has sort of like a basic one, and then she changes it every day so that she keeps mindful with it.
man.
And you can take like different warm ups from different people and piece them together and like figure out what works for you. Like it's a beautiful thing to like take all these resources and make something that actually keeps your mind engaged and keeps you healthy and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So how
I
did you?
loved what you did with that warm up. I thought
Oh,
it's
thank you. That, I mean, it's like, yeah, honestly though, I feel like the warm up has been really crucial for me to develop consistency.
mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's a way that I've developed a sound. How do you get your sound? Because you have like one of the nicest sounds of any player. And also, I want you to talk about sound, but I also want you to talk about phrasing.
Oh,
Because I feel like that you're a really, incredible phraser.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think they're interconnected. I
Mhm.
think so, like Caruso, which is of course sort of the basis of your warm up that you were talking about, like basics like Caruso and other kind of very, very basic, like, the Farkas book, like with long tones and then arpeggios and just like basic kind of fundamental type of work.
Mhm.
I think if you do that in a way that is mindful, again, like not just like, oh, I should do this because my teacher says I should, but instead, like, if you do all of your basics like with a spirit of listening and focusing on, do I love the sound that's coming out of my horn? This is the register that I love the vocalness, and I have a really good like blend of like core and aura and colors and stuff like that. If you kind of if you like listen to your sound in the register that you love, and then you try to make it even and try to
Mm.
continue it throughout the range,
Yeah.
then in your basics warm-ups and and in your fundamentals kind of thing, then you sort of have the tools that you need to
Mm.
then make it be beautiful in musical ways. And then I think that's like step one. And then
Yeah.
step two, I think, is the amazing thing of like that sort of fundamentals and then working up from your fundamentals. And then there's the amazing, like, I love that piece. I want it to be like this. How do I get it to be like that? And
Yeah.
that's even more fun. Like, so I
Yeah.
think as we're looking at a bit of time here where we don't have a whole lot of, work,
Yeah.
official work, like it's cool to do both. But yeah, and then
Can
like
I
why
stop you for a
trends?
second?
Yeah.
So what recordings did you hear when you were a kid that were like, oh man, if I could, I love this piece, and if I could just get it to sound like that, like what albums or what recordings like really did that for you?
Mm. Horn or just everything?
Well, let's start with horn.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess probably the first horn recordings I ever heard were, Dennis Brain, like everybody
Yeah,
else our age, Mozart
yeah,
concertos. And I guess what I got from that was the classiness and the tastefulness and the elegance and the refinement that I think is perfect for that era.
hmm,
And honestly, then I was going to the National Symphony. Like once I started getting serious enough about it, I'm from the DC area, and I heard my teacher Ted Thayer, who is like kind of essentially like the most elegant and refined player that maybe still I've ever heard. Like just tasty, and there's colors and there's nuance and there's like micro beauty. And then I started learning more about some of the soloists. So of course, like Barry Tuckwell is amazing, but I really love like Herman Bauman's Glier, like
yeah.
that.
That's a big recording that shaped my playing. Like when I found out about the
Yeah,
Glier, like I remember that was like the piece that all the really good high school students would do when I was like coming up, and I was like, oh, they did the Glier. That's really hard. And then I remember hearing Herman Bauman's, and I was like, what is this? It
yeah,
was just like, yeah, I was just transfixed by his phrasing, his musicality, his sound, everything.
yeah. And then the flair also, like the soloistic flair, which I
Yeah.
think especially for principals, but for any of us, like just to when we're playing solos, to just like let it go, like let it rip and just like fly through the high things and soar through the long things and just like color through all the nuances, like just that bravery, like that emotional musical bravery is super
Yep.
inspiring to me.
Yeah,
And
he just took tons
then
of risks and tons of like, time, and he just like had this personality that came through in that recording.
yeah, which
And then
then led me to Eric Rusk and the
really,
Empire Brass, who I
yes.
studied with in high school, and then Dale Clevenger. As soon as I started hearing, like listening to orchestra,
Yeah.
Danielle let it go, totally. Um, frozen. No, but then like Dale Clevenger, like his way of doing that in the orchestra was incredible to me.
Yeah.
Like he's the most, like all of those recordings in the 80s of him with all the Strauss, like just the combination of leadership in an orchestral role, and then just the creativity and like the little tiny things with articulation and timing and pacing that he does in his, you know, in solos, I thought was incredible. And then I
Do you
started
have
working with Julie, and I was like, I have the worst sound in the world compared to you, man. And that was super humbling. So it's like, you know, like all of us, we're a combination of all these inspirations.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's funny what inspired me like growing up and what inspired you. I think a lot of the stuff that, you know, it's kind of universal what inspired us, right?
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I like, what albums of Chicago Symphony or Dale Clevenger did you really love when you were, you know, starting off on the horn? Or,
All the Strauss and all the Mahler. Like, so I had this thing when I was taking auditions where I would pick a different recording for every excerpt, like a different orchestra. I would on purpose try to get a different orchestra for each for each excerpt, and it was a little hard because I had like my favorites, you know. But then it got me into listening to Berlin, and then I kind of found Stefan Dorr, and I was like, ooh, that guy, you know. And also like San Francisco, like had some amazing Strauss recordings also. So I mean, it's interesting though, because I ended up listening to like old Cleveland for Brahms or old Philly for Brahms, you know,
yep,
and like the old recordings of Boston for Frenchy
yep,
stuff is like, it's so like so Frenchy. You know, and it's like, because half the orchestra was French, and it was Charles
yeah,
Munch. Montreal, same thing. It's like
yeah,
there's just
absolutely, yeah. Charles
but I
Munch
found
for
it
me,
exciting
and
because then
Montreal.
when you take, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
But then when you take auditions, then you've got all these different really amazing musicians in your head, and therefore like the differences between your excerpts are a little more extreme because you've been inspired by different people for each one.
huh?
So
Wow,
it's a way to go
fantastic.
about auditions from sort of the music down.
Yeah. I remember, I'll never forget. I think I was getting ready for a third horn audition, or maybe it was like assistant principal in Dallas. Like it was like, but I played for you. It was like 2009, I believe, or maybe 2000. No, it was maybe early 2010. I think I played for you. So I probably was getting ready for the Dallas list. But I remember like I never worked on the Brahms Piano Concerti before. And I think like you played it for me, like, you know, that excerpt. You
Yeah.
played that solo for me, like in the basement of the Kimmel Center. And I remember it just like, I was like, whoa. I was like, that's another level. I was like, that it just time stopped your sound, your phrasing. I was just like, just taken aback by that. And I was just, yeah, you're like, yeah, it's just like this. And it was like just so easy for you. It was just like, oh man.
Well,
So
thank you. That
yeah.
sounds like the most useless way of teaching ever, is just play something and be like, yeah, just like that. It's like, tell me how to do that.
No, absolutely. Like for
Thank
me,
you.
like I think demonstration is like one of the key ways that we learn is like, you know, imitation, demonstration. You know, like I think a lot of it just kind of soaks in. Like if I have words and I'm like distracted from what you actually did sometimes, and I like if I can hear it and I'm like, oh man, and that inspires me to be like, okay, this is possible on the horn. Now let me see if I can try it. So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
No, it's a good point. Like, it's probably, we're all different in how we learn, but yeah, the combination of like words and descriptions and like just listening. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
cool.
I couldn't do with either one or the other. It has to be a
Hmm.
combination. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So what have you, like, I guess you went from DC, you worked with Ted Thayer, is that
Hmm.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe Nikki Cash also studied with Ted Thayer, is that correct?
Yeah, she and I both worked with both Ted Thayer and Sylvia Alamina. I think Ted was mainly my teacher and Sylvia was mainly her teacher, but I think we both worked with both. But yeah, we grew up together, and like she was such an inspiration to me. Oh my gosh, like we sort of pushed each other up a lot. Like we were pretty much exactly the same age. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And
always
then
been a pretty special friendship there.
were you both in Dallas together at the same time or
Yeah, well, that was
you
actually
were?
one of the sweetest things ever, because we had always been, just because in school you're so competitive
Yeah.
naturally with everybody your age, like you're, because you're just fighting for the same positions. So it was like every year from like 8th grade until we graduated, it was like, you know, she would win all like all district and I would win all region, and then she would win principal and all state orchestra and I'd win principal and all state band. It was like, then we were, you know, like we played unison together on first horn on Beethoven 3 one year in youth symphony because we couldn't decide who wanted to play it more. So we just played the entire thing together, which was hysterical and really
Amazing.
good for your pitch, really.
Yeah.
And like blending and stuff. It was so funny. But then, so I was in Dallas I got a 1-year position there on associate and third when Carl Pittick left. And then
Yes.
the next season, they decided to make that into a 6-person section. So they had an audition for associate and an audition for third. So I took the audition and won the associate. She won the audition for third. And we got back into, as soon as they announced it in the warm-up room, we like looked at each other and just kind of, it was like, there's a place for both of us. There's room for both of us. And it was we started joking around and singing like, there's a place for us. You know, like finally we can like coexist together and not be competitive at all. This is amazing. But
isn't that great when you like see your friends, you know, that you grew up with, and then like you have like careers that kind of parallel each other, and then like you get to work together as professionals.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I love that about our field. Like it's this big family that feels very small. So
yeah, I mean, Joe Ossie is kind of that guy for me. You know, it's like, you know, we went to music camp together in 2001 at like BUTI, and then Boston University Tanglewood Institute, for those of you who are familiar with it. And yeah, so Joe and I like kind of went. He went to Curtis, I was at Curtis, and then yeah, I think we just paralleled, and then we both ended up in Dallas together, and it was just such a great time to be with your great friend, you know. And
yeah. Well, it also helps, I think, with what you were saying about phrasing. Like when you think about orchestra, especially, like you're constantly, like it's a conversation among friends, like all of our lines, like interweaving and stuff like that. So I think it really is beautiful that we have these personal relationships over time, because then you're having musical conversations with people you have personal relationships with. So it's basically like a sweet conversation where you're, you know, doing it. But I think it's like a good reason to become friends with your colleagues. And it's also a good way that then, like, I think sometimes when I'm nervous, I just like look around and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to pretend I'm just talking to Amy Oshiro in the violin section, and we're just going to have a really nice conversation, she and I, right now. And I'll just like watch the back of her head and play, you know. It's like, it's just really nice. Like, you know.
Does she know that, or is she just like, why is Jen staring at me?
Why is she looking at me? Yeah. Or Yumi, who plays
Something on my
cello.
face?
Sometimes she'll look at me while I'm playing something and she's like, hi. I'm like, sorry, is that weird?
Yeah, I know. Or she winks, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So could you talk about what it was like for you to go, I mean, you studied with Julie Landsman in school, and what lessons did you learn from Julie? I mean, you were talking about Julie's sound.
Like all the lessons. Yeah. Oh my gosh, her sound. Her wisdom is so epic to me. Yeah, she's amazing. So like pedagogically, I think is maybe the most beautiful way of approaching teaching that I've seen. And then I recognize that a lot of my teachers have had these aspects to them, where it's like they look at the people that are in front of them and they try to see them differently, or, you know, see them in the moment every time they show up. It's not like, oh, you always do that. It's more like, hi, who are you today? How are you doing today? And what can I help you with today? And like that whole thing of what's going to help you be your best today, inspiring, like, you know, like today I'm going to give you a hard time because you seem undermotivated, or today I'm going to give you some encouragement because you seem like you know, like that's going to help you build, you know. And here we're going to talk about music because you're getting all analytical and in your brain about all the tiny little things, and that's silly. Like just think of a beautiful song and sing it to someone you love, you know, or whatever. Or like you've let this slide, so we're going to get really down in the dirt and weed your garden, you know. So it's just like approach of things. Like I find there's so much wisdom and balance to how she does stuff. And then also like humility and ability to redirect, like, okay, going this direction, okay, now I need to change directions. Like, you know, just kind of wisdom of how to have a career that, you know, keeps you ever learning and ever growing and all that. So like a lot of that was, I feel like from all of my teachers, but I definitely noticed it a lot in her. And maybe it was also because I was that age, but, and then her playing is beautiful. It's very, very different from mine, but I think that's maybe why it's so inspiring to me, is like, there's color inside the sound. And
Mhm.
she, yeah, like, she's always been really helpful to me in terms of me bringing out the best in what I am and not pretending too much to be like her. Like, I remember after a while, I was, of course, trying to sound just like her. And she was
Yeah.
like, honey, you're never going to sound like me. And that's good. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, it's like, I want to make you a better you, not make you
Yeah.
into a clone of me. Nobody needs that. And I was like,
Wow. That's a great lesson. I mean, just
oh,
to be the best you can be, right? And there's
right.
only one of you. There's
Yeah.
only one of me, but like we
And
can help
everybody.
students to become the best version of themselves. And I think that's just kind of what the horn has done for me. It's like it's just been a vehicle for me to learn about myself and to become a better version of me.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, we all have these amazing attributes that are only our own, you know. So yeah, it's like, it's just a beautiful like approach to everything. So
yeah, and
yeah,
getting comfortable with ourselves too, like accepting the things I don't do so well and trying to improve on those, and then acknowledging the things I do okay. It's
yeah,
like, and it's not being like, oh yeah, check me out, this is something I do really great. It's like, no, like I think humility, true humility, is like knowing what we do well, what we don't do so well, and then just realizing we're never going to be the best, we're never going to be the worst. We're just somewhere in the middle, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we all are like all of those things in one. But yeah, and like the Zen Buddhist stuff of like, she also got me into reading all sorts of like really inspiring like Buddhist stuff and doing yoga and meditation and just everything in that direction, and Don Green and all this. But it's like the whole thing of striving
Yeah.
and then letting it go, that kind of concept. It's like striving your best, like it's sort of like practice mentality, giving it your all, and then letting it go in a beautiful giving way. And that's such a good performance mindset.
That was one of the
But
questions that I thought about asking you, is like, so in our careers, like there are things out of our control that don't go as planned, right? For you, you had, two injuries really. You've had, the kids, which I'm sure were planned, right? But you had to take
yeah,
time off the horn and then coming back from that.
yeah,
And then, I know that Philly was having some financial trouble, as all orchestras have in the past, few years after the recession, and now this, coronavirus pandemic, where we're staying at home. How has the resiliency from, like taking auditions, kind of, and maybe playing principal horns for me, like you're exposed. I don't always play perfect. I actually I don't play perfect, right? There's no way, that's not a
ever.
thing,
We're
right?
never perfect,
Yeah,
ever.
exactly. But I mean, I'm always trying to live up to the standard. And for me, like, I just, it's humbling. You don't ever hit the standard you set. You don't ever play all the right notes. And you have to come back the next day and, smile and say, all right, let's give it a go again. And you have to be
Yep.
resilient. And you have to be like, all right, today I'm putting myself out there again. Like,
Yes, that's like exactly our field.
yeah.
Yeah, I have this magnet on my fridge. That's my favorite thing ever, which is courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the tiny voice at the end of the day that says, I will try again tomorrow.
Oh,
And like,
yeah.
yeah, whenever I just like feel just like, oh, just like beat up by whatever, and it can be life, or it can be horn, or just my own failings or whatever, like I always go and I look at that and I just kind of like nose breathe. And like, I think in order to give fully, I guess, like I think to give our all in anything, but and maybe especially just to horn right now, like it's you have to then be willing to accept that it's not always going to go okay, and you have to be able to circle back and be like, this was the best I could do today, this is
Mhm.
who I am today, and tomorrow XYZ.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm
Yeah.
going to do this and do that and do that. But I think it's important to be able to process and then have a goal.
Yeah.
And I think like everything personal sort of, it helps us. Like whenever I have a student who has a bad breakup or loses a family member or something, like I see it and I see them going through it. And, we all try to like help our loved ones and support them when we all go through hard things. But there's always this beautiful bloom of expression and compassion and wisdom and understanding that comes from all these hardships. And like, that's like life. That's why like everybody who's over the age of, 60, like is so freaking wise and can just help us with so much as young
Yeah.
musicians and young people,
Yeah.
it's like, it's amazing, but it's just like life and what you do with it and how you process it. And I think the
Mm.
more like lovingly and, using humor and just be like, oh my God, the better that we process and the more loving we are about it, then I think we grow our wisdom over time. So I guess
Yeah.
that's maybe my goal for
It's that
myself.
attitude of, gratitude, right? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
what am I grateful for as opposed to what don't I have? And then I also see in you too, like this, like, you're able to look at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. It's really this kind of this change of perception.
Well, you too. We are both crazy optimists.
I like
In
people,
many
and
ways, we are similar.
yeah, I think we are. Like I like people a lot, and I believe in like the good that can come out of conversations. The good that I just want to see everybody in a good light, and then if you believe that people are good, then generally you get good stuff back.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're surprised. You're like, hey man, like wow, this is even better than I planned.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Well, yeah, that's a good leadership thing also. Like,
mm, yeah.
that concept, like, yeah, sort of respecting the people around you and knowing that they can teach you so much,
I mean,
like learning
as
from everybody
players.
around you. That's like the greatest blessing of our field.
So you came into Philadelphia when you were quite young, and you were principal horn in St. Louis. Before that, you were associate principal in Dallas. Before that, and you've always been kind of the younger player, maybe in the section.
Hmm.
How did you like come into those sections and lead as a younger person?
It was weird and tough, and I think I stepped in it all the time. I feel like my older colleagues absolutely just taught me how to be a leader. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Julie did too. Like, one thing she did was she let me, she let me, when I would take an audition, she would let me play lead to her Met section, which is incredible, and they were so nice to do that. So they taught me sort of how to lead as a horn player.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how to lead with your playing rather than with your words. And
Mm-hmm.
then just like making your intentions known somehow. And I think I'm not sure, I don't think I'm a very good cuer, but I think like I have, the stronger my view on something is and the stronger my preparation, the better leader I am.
Yeah.
So like I've definitely had situations, and I think like Dan Williams, our second horn who just retired, it's so funny because he knows me so well, but it's like I think to him it's hysterical when he sees me, like if I am not 100% prepared for something, it's so noticeable for him, you know.
Yeah.
But
I
so
mean, they're
like,
like, because the second horn player's job is to read our mind, right? And if
right,
we're like, there's like a shadow of a doubt in our mind,
yeah.
you're like, huh?
Right. Yeah. I'll like feel from him. He's like, okay, make some decisions, kid. Like,
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
like make up your mind and do it so we know what to do. Like, I think that's the thing. You have to actually be really prepared, and you have to be really brave with your opinions. I mean, I think that's a major thing that we learn through college and into young professionalism is
Mhm.
like we've imitated so many people for so long. And at some point you have to commit to like this is what I think, even if it's just like this is what I think because that's what Dale Clevenger did in that recording, so that's what we're doing. So like you can imitate to think and
Yeah.
make your decisions that way until you feel confident enough to be like okay, we're going to phrase to here, and then we're going to take a breath here, and we're going to shape this down and do these note, we're going to do these note endings because it matches with the trombones, and then we're going to shape to this because it matches with the bass line,
Yeah.
and then we're going to phrase to here because it's under the clarinets. Like whatever it is musically, like you got to know your score and you got to make up your mind, and you can
Wow.
imitate or you can learn it from the music or both. But it's I guess what I learned by stepping in it a number of times is that most of the time, if you just keep your mouth shut and do it musically,
Mhm.
it's better.
Yeah.
So like, and I had some older colleagues who would be like, be more clear. Like, I had a colleague in St. Louis who was like, don't beat around the bush, just say it,
Yeah.
and that was really sweet. It was like, okay, you don't have to be self-deferential and ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
because I'd be like, oh, that sounds really nice. I think it's great, but I was just thinking that maybe we could, and he was like, just say it. And I was like, I think we're late. And they were like, okay. It's like,
Yeah.
that's easy. So like, it's sort of like when to talk and when not to talk. And then also how to respect your colleagues enough that like you develop a friendship with them so that they're teaching you absolutely all the time, and you as a young professional is sort of getting everything from the situation and from your colleagues that you can, so you can fill your role in the appropriate way.
Wow.
I guess that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
And
we want to fill our chair with the, like what it deserves to have.
well, yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, and just knowing what that is, I think takes experience, but also like, being willing to listen, being open-minded to the suggestions and the experience of others. And I think, yeah, basically, like for me, I've had to just like say like, all right, maybe this isn't exactly perfect right now. It's maybe not together, or maybe it's not in tune, or maybe like something isn't like working with the section. But just keep our mouth, keep my mouth shut, and just play again, and gradually it fixes itself. Like that's like the nice thing about working with really great musicians is like everyone's listening to you, or all around the orchestra, and so we're always going to work together, and it's going to come together. It might not be the first time, second time, third time, but yeah, it'll come together.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and I mean, I think it's a sweet thing about like chamber music in that regard. It's like everybody's listening, and everybody's trying, and everybody's bringing it all together. So it's like, I think sometimes when we're students, it's helpful to like say, hey guys, do you mind if we tune this? But as a professional, usually that's not too necessary unless something's super out,
Yeah.
But yeah, which is nice.
So. Yeah, for sure. What is the Philadelphia style of phrasing? I mean, could you talk about that a little bit? First of all, what's the Philadelphia sound for the strings? Like, how does that, like?
That's a lovely thing about our orchestra. It's got a lot of history, but I guess all orchestras do. It's just we're very aware of continuing ours, but like your orchestra is the same thing. But yeah, so Philly, I think, has a cool thing in that the Academy of Music was pretty dry. And the shape of it was such that I think the strings had to use a ton of bow and a lot of like glisses and like just this warmth that developed in the sound. I think I forget which conductor it was. It might have been Savalish, or I forget which one it was, Stokowski maybe, but he said that he envisioned the sound as a diamond wrapped in velvet, which is like an amazing thing to think, right? It's like,
So, but the acoustic of the Academy was pretty dry, right?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I haven't played there much. I think I did the Nutcracker there when I was in school, but I don't remember the acoustic too well, and I was in the pit.
Right.
But yeah, I was going to say that the Philadelphia Orchestra strings are known for their legato, like the connection between the notes, and it's just this just this soaring string sound. I mean, I don't think there's any way to describe it unless you've heard it in person.
Yeah.
And even if you've heard it in person, I don't think there's any way to describe what it sounds like on stage. Like, I just wish that every person that like loved the Philadelphia Orchestra could get a chance to like sit next to you for 5 minutes. Just like, all right, give like, $10,000, sit next to like Jen Montone, or give like $5. I don't care. Like, but sit next to Jen Montone for like, 5 minutes, and you'll realize why this is like such a special orchestra.
Right. Well, I love the halls that have wraparound, like behind the orchestra. Because, I feel like then it's like, I mean, we're in the best neighborhood being, around our winds and our strings and everything. Like, you're right. It's amazing to be on stage with great colleagues. But I love that we can actually get behind different orchestras. Like, whenever I go hear the orchestras, I'm always like right behind the horns or something, just because it's so fun to like feel like you're a part of it. But yeah, the sound, like that long bow sound, is amazing. And it's very inspiring to try to use your air that way. Yeah. And it's a lot like singers. Like, I think, I always grew up being taught to like, emulate singers and stuff like that. And so it's amazing because I think the woodwinds in Philly and the winds in general, like they've come from like a pretty interestingly European heritage. And so they're very vocal and very creative. And then the string sound, like it's a really inspiring combination to be around all the time.
I mean, if I was going to recommend to learn about the Philadelphia phrasing, so it was brought over to the United States by Marcel Tabiteau, who was a French oboe player. And he taught at the Curtis Institute of Music, but he developed a number system from 0 to 30. And then that was the dynamics. So you had more possibilities than just 6 levels, right? Because we just have like, pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, and fortissimo, right? And it just seems like there's so much more expression and so much more nuance than just 6 levels.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the book Sound in Motion by David McGill, who was in music class with one of Tabito's students, John Delancey, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Delancey did win class.
Yeah, so this method has been passed down through the Curtis Institute of Music, which you teach at, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
you're like helping.
I try to teach that method because I think it's amazing. Yeah, and there's a CD called Tabito's Lessons.
No.
And yeah, it's really cool. And he's like kind of old and crunchy and very French. And, it's fantastic because, yeah, he insisted that it wasn't about the dynamics and that it was more just about the phrasing. But
Wow.
it absolutely is the dynamics also. Like you can use it kind of any which way, like any tool. But yeah, it's amazing to just think of that in terms of helping you pace a phrase to actually where you intend it to be, and to see where there might be like a harmonic reason to like do a color. Like, is there a suspension that you can kind of press and release, or is there, is there a harmony that changes so you can do like a little color thingy or like a flourish at the end of something? Like he really like in putting it in numbers, it gives you a little freedom to feel like you can just explore it. It's like a playground of, little tiny things you can do with a phrase that makes it just more personal and more beautiful. And I think it's a great thing. I mean, if we're going to be students for life and we're ever growing, like this is a great way to have every time be a little bit different because you're looking at it with through this lens. So yeah. And there's also this Marcel Moïse book called Tone Development Through Interpretation. It's a flute book. Okay. And I learned about it at Marlborough, and it's got just beautiful tunes that, again, like it's kind of like the Mason Jones thing, in that it's just basic like melodies that somebody wrote down, and the first like 20 or so are fine for the horn register. Then it gets a little high. But
could you say that one more time? It's
Marcel Moïse, Moyse, and it's Tone Development Through Interpretation.
Tone development through interpretation.
Yeah. Okay. And it's really fun when you don't want to play horn music, but you just want to like phrase. It's like concone, but less horn-like.
Oh man.
But it's great for nuance and detail. Like if you really try to make it sound like, a lot of them are vocal works or flute works or, organ or whatever, orchestra works. But if you try to make it sound on the horn like it sounds for all these other musicians, then you're going to, by nature, you're going to be doing more interesting things with your sound and your phrasing, just because what your ear tells you want out of it.
Holy smokes. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I'll gladly look at that. I've been working on just taking any sort of pop melody that we can.
Yes.
I'm taking like, Star Wars, or like, I'm going to do the Ashkoken Farewell, from the Civil War, thing. But
cool.
I'm just going to arrange pop melodies for 2 horns, just to get like kids to like record stuff, and just for kids to have something fun, maybe a little bit challenging, but fun to do with another horn player. And it'll be something and I'm doing that as like a fundraiser for our musicians fund, so I'm going to release those duets. If like someone's just like, hey, listen, like I want to donate $5 to the musicians fund here, send me like a direct message, and you can have a copy of the duet. But it's just like kind of like a way to help fundraise. So yeah, I don't know. I feel strongly about trying to do something for the musicians fund, as well as that recital which I'm giving this weekend.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it was a challenge to find like solo horn like music, like music that was just like, okay, what do I play? Okay, I can do the Bach cello suite. I've never done those in public because they're not super hornistic, but like I love to play them, and I've been playing them for a while. And then also too, like the Appel Interstellar by Olivier Messiaen, and then I have a flute transcription of like a Telemann like solo flute fantasy that I've been working on. So,
that'll be really cool. Oh my god.
It's like, it's maybe like, it's less than 10 minutes, right? Maybe it's like generously it'd probably be like 7 or 8 minutes, but like those fast movements are like 2 minutes a piece, less than 2 minutes, right? And I've probably spent like hours just working on these 2 fast movements, and I'm like, well, okay, that's that's the cost of paying business, but doing business. But yeah, I love it. It's something to practice. So
yeah, it is really fun to play rep for other instruments. Like it unlocks you a little bit. Like,
what are your happy things to play? Like, what do you play that's like therapy for you?
Well, I guess, you mean like solo pieces or like
Anything.
anything?
Like, what do you like? What do you put on your stand when you're just like, man, I just want to play something that's just like gonna, bring out my soul, make my soul smile, like turn up the corners of my heart.
Hmm. I like middle movements of concertos. I like doing slow movements of things. That always makes me happy.
Oh,
I like playing along with recordings a lot. That usually is the most
horn
fun for me.
karaoke. Like, what do you
Horn
like to
oh
play?
yeah. Oh, I'll just like just the first horn part to Mahler or what, anything, or like the fourth horn part to Strauss tone poem, whatever. Like I love doing that. Like that is the most fun way for me to learn. And I'll play along with concertos and I'll play along with orchestra pieces, just anything. Yeah, like that's the most happy for me. I think because it makes me feel like I'm with other people and I know that I'm learning and growing by doing it, kind of like it's seeping in, but I am also just enjoying the great rep that we get to play. Um, I like
Vinny
playing
sa-
along with arias, like
Vinny
yeah,
says Nocturne in D for cello.
sweet.
Vinny Carletti. I don't know that one. Nocturne in D. And then
Oh,
we've got the Fantasy Stuka,
yeah,
obviously by
Spanish fish too.
Schumann. That's
Yeah.
from J.
Oh yeah,
Alberico
Joe Albert.
55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and like arias are really fun. Like
Oh yeah.
like an aria from a Marriage of Figaro or something. Like there's one called Dove Sono, Ibe Momenti, which is amazing. The Schumann Dichterliebe are really
Okay.
fun to play along with. There's Schubert Lieder that have been transcribed. I actually just recorded for the Philly Orchestra some Clara Schumann songs for a women's
Really?
composer concert, and they're gorgeous. And yeah, I love like I like the idea of putting the text, trying to like see if you can get it to make sense with the music, like when we do like often Strom or something, trying to make it feel right. It's like,
Or
oh,
the
they're
Britten
talking about
Serenade.
this, so, or the Britain Serenade, it's like, oh, they're
Yeah.
talking about this, so we play it this way. Like it's
Yeah.
fun to do that. Jack
So,
Perry scales.
yeah, exactly. That just warms my heart. Thanks,
It
Jack.
warms
Yeah.
my heart, yeah.
Brahms Cello Sonatas from
But
Jeffrey
some people
Whaley.
do like to play basics, and that makes them
Thank you,
feel
Jeff.
like really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
So
I mean,
like,
like doing doing the things that I know I need to do,
yeah, right,
that if I know I need to do it, right? And by doing it, I feel good
right.
because
It's
I know
like
I've
cleaning
done it
a
my best
house
with my
or like
teeth.
weeding your garden. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or stretching and touching my toes if you want to like keep it real simple, right? Like
yeah.
I hate stretching and touching my toes, but I know I need to do it because otherwise I'm just gonna be like walking around like a ball of knots. So
Yeah.
uh,
Speaking of which, that's maybe my most favorite thing to do practicing is like get my body in the right frame of mind, not frame of
oh,
mind, but
yeah,
in the right like spot to play. In terms of practical things that make me feel good. Yeah, like doing just a little bit of yoga or a little bit of stretching or a breathing gym or like lying on a foam roller or like Arnold Jacobs breathing bags, like
yeah,
things like that. Like in terms of things that make me feel good and that I know that I'll be able to play well afterwards, those are the big things for me. So,
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, for me, it's always like something physical that gets my lung capacity opened. Like swimming always does that. Pilates always does that for me.
Yeah.
So
There's nothing more
uh,
frustrating than wanting to do something physically on the horn and then your body just not really cooperating. So
oof,
rather
yeah,
than like beating, I find that a lot. Like, and then I just get tense and I play strained, and that's just like, oh. So yeah, I find it a lot of times I'll start to practice and then I'm like, I'm just not ready. Like, I need to stretch out a little bit more. I need to breathe a little bit more. I need to be more opened up in order to do what I want.
yeah. Well, I think if we treat ourselves like athletes, right? Like an athlete would never run a race or like a marathon without stretching a little bit first.
Yeah.
And I also say like, an athlete like would never run a marathon without stretching out afterwards, right? And so we just like throw our horns in the case, like some of us, and
Yeah.
run off, and catch the train or whatever. And it's like, no, like I need to like do a little bit of cool down, a little bit of like, and then also I feel like after a concert, I want to wind down with my colleagues and just kind of like, decompress a little bit. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, I bring a bag of licorice. Like I have a 2 pound bag of like black licorice that I take to the locker room, and after the concerts, like if it's been a good concert, bad concert, tough concert, whatever, like hey guys, you want some licorice? And then, oh, we all have a piece of card. Like it's
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
a little morale booster,
I
right?
know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing like candy.
Do you want to go on for a couple more minutes, or do you want to end
Absolutely.
at the hour? Okay, cool. So we're running out. We got about 30 seconds here. So we'll just, end this chat and, see you all in like 2 seconds. I'm going to take this moment of break to, just take a break, go talk to Man About a Horse. So I'll be back in about a minute or two. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Excellent. Sounds good. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, we're back, everybody, and we have the second half of our chat with Jen Montone. It's been so awesome getting a chance to talk to Jen. Hey, Jen, I'm going to add you here. How do I join you? Aha, there we go. Awesome. We've got Melody, we've got Rice Horn Crew, we've got Horna Spieler. Hey, you're back.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. That was a good little, it was a well-timed break. I just realized I don't think a lot of people know what that saying means. See a man about a horse, and that's okay. But it's a saying from Dale, right? He goes, "I am going to see a man about a horse," and I was like, "What?
What?
What do you mean?" He's like, "Think about it. You could go see a man about anything, really. I mean, you could see a man about a, and I was just like, where is he going? Oh, he's gonna go to the restroom. Okay." Yeah, so that was funny.
That guy. I've loved watching those chats with him. Oh my gosh.
Man,
he's such an inspiration to all of us.
Everything he says, you're just like, whoa. Like, he's done it all. Like he's like been on the mountaintop. And it's like when he speaks, it's like poetry in motion. You're just like, yup, yeah, wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I think we have a few new people that joined. We've got French Horn Bonnet. So I think that's Javier Bonet, if I'm not mistaken. That's Javier from Spain.
Yeah.
We have...
He came to a class a couple years ago and played a recital for my students. It was amazing.
Man, that guy's ridiculous. He's really, really good. At the natural horn, at horn, I mean, it's just awesome to see him. We've got Jessica Young, who's a horn student of mine who's in Boston now. And then MS State Horns. Their horn studio has a Instagram account, and they've just been like really supporting the Fireside Chats. I know Danielle Kuhlman's on. Danielle waved, and Danielle's like, been making us laugh all. Christoph S is on. Holy smokes! Christoph S is a professor in, I believe he was in Essen, but he's principal horn in Bamberg, and then the first horn of the German horn sound or German horn quartet. So yeah, Christoph S is an awesome player. And then we've got the
best colleagues.
Yeah, Isomri practicing. Is Omri practicing? Thanks so much for this talk, guys. Love you both. I bet you that's Omri Barak.
Is that Omri? Yeah.
I bet you that's Omri Barak. Yeah. So I think we got it right. It took me a second.
Book, I really should be practicing.
I know, me too. Oh, geez, yeah. I have put the horn on the face today twice, so yeah, I've got I've got some practicing in. I guess I just want to talk to you about just some of your lessons. Like you teach at Juilliard, you teach at Curtis, you play principal horn in the Philadelphia Orchestra. You have a family. That's a lot to balance. And I just think balance is one of those things that we've one of the themes of today's conversation. But how have you been able to balance some of your time and some of your needs, demands, right?
Well, I guess, okay. Well, I think in general, like we all learn over time, when we should practice to be the most effective and efficient, when our bodies need rest, when we need food, when we need entertainment, like when we need whatever. So I think like if you start to listen to those cues as you get older, like I think you figure out your balance a little better. For me, like then it was like when I had my 2 injuries, especially the first one, the jaw one, it was interesting because I came back and I was playing like between middle C and middle G, and I could do 5 minutes a day.
Wow.
For like a week. And then every week I was allowed to add like a half step or 1 minute. And I had worked with this doctor at the Cleveland Clinic who was the head of the Performing Arts Clinic. And he sort of taught me that way of working back from an injury. Wow. And it was just that's where my jaw didn't, he'd put electrodes on my head and like seen where everything lit up. And he's like, that's the range that doesn't light up. So it's not going to hurt you to play in that range if you play soft. So it was interesting because it was like, just the concept of like, okay, well, how do I practice the horn and get better again and get back in shape with those kind of constraints.
Yes.
And it made me really creative just by necessity. It was before the Philly audition. I started that process about 4 months before Philly audition. So like, it was interesting working from that point to then winning, you know, a big audition. And I think the way of like, oh, well, what are the aspects of horn playing? Oh, what do you need to actually be good at this? Like, what is technical? What is musical? What is important for what? Like, you need good air in order to tongue on the air. You need, you know, like, you need to be able to have breath control in order to phrase, like all these kind of mechanics and things. If you build that up and sort of, if then as a professional, if you're constantly like going back to your Mozart concertos and rebuilding them up, then you're doing it kind of thoughtfully. And I think that helped bring a certain amount of efficiency to practicing. And I guess that's the thing. Like, you want to take whatever's coming out of your bell and make it better.
Yeah.
Every time you play. So like, I practice at night. I practice after concerts like you.
Yeah.
I practice a little bit before rehearsals or before concerts. And like during the first halves of concerts, I'll put in some time, and I'll put in some time after a concert. Like, now that I have kids, it's harder for me to practice during the day at home. I just don't get anything done.
I can imagine. So, yeah, while they're awake, they demand attention, and you kind of have to, especially probably right now, it's really important to like, be focusing on like, all right, their education, they're staying at home too, so we got to get them their homeschool and outdoor time, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because sometimes like I'll go to practice, like they'll, go to a school thing or a, or activities or something, and I'll try to practice. And I'm like, I'm not in the right headspace for this. Like, my body's not ready or my brain's not ready. Like,
so how do you
maybe I need to like take a walk or read a book. Or
okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask, like, what sort of things do you do to get your head in the right space to practice? And like, yeah, like what the right space you were saying is like present, mindful, and then maybe willing to look at some of these things that need improvement, and that takes some attitude, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can get yourself in the mood. Like, if it's the only hour that I have, I'll be like, okay, well, you better do it because you got to play that tomorrow. So, but you can, like, if I'm not, I'll do stretching to get my body in the right place. I'll do meditation to get my mind focused. I'll listen to recordings with a score so that I have some idea of what I'm going for, especially like when I'm preparing for orchestra stuff. It's like, well, either the piece or you don't. If you know the piece, you listen to the recording with your part. If you don't know the piece, you do the same thing with a part and a score a couple times, and you learn it that way, like actually really learn it. So like, if you're not in the mood to actually physically play, you can do a lot of practicing that way. And I find for auditions and solo pieces too, it's like the more you know about what you want, that works. And then there's some cool, I think this comes from Chicago pedagogy, but like sing, buzz, play, that's really helpful for getting yourself in the mood. You sing what you want and then you buzz it to see if you're on the mouthpiece, to see if your mechanics kind of are working right. And then you know what you want, your body's working well, so then you play it. And it's a good way of like layering. So yeah, I find that to be fun. But there's also like the breathing gym is really great, that book and
Dan
stuff.
Palafian and Pat Sheridan. And I think some of those videos are available on YouTube, correct? Or
yeah, totally. And like Jim Thompson buzzing basics, like there's a lot of stuff to do that are kind of, they get you into the mindset of playing and you can get some work done. And then all of a sudden you're into it. Like, I think it's like lighting a burner on your stove. Sometimes you just have to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just have to just get the horn out of the case. That's it. Once the horn's out of the case and I'm like, and then I pick it up and I play something, like, it doesn't matter. Like, if I'm just playing a scale, I'm like, oh, let me try this. And then it's like, oh, no, let me try that. And then I'm like, then 2 hours later, I'm just like, wow, I just practiced for 2 hours. Like, where did that time go?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really, for me, it's just getting started once I get started. But again, it's like, getting in the right mindset. And I've been like, there are times where I'm practicing for an audition and I'm like, man, I just really don't feel like practicing. I'm tired, or my body hurts, or like, you can get sore from overplaying, right? Yeah. So how do you prevent injuries and how do you keep your body like strong?
I think preventing injuries is a big one. I think it has to do with not overdoing it in a lot of different ways. Like I think like warming up sensibly, not doing like, you know, like there are these major big warm-up routines that are just so acrobatic, and it's like every, you know, every arpeggio and every key and every scale and every articulation and all that. Sometimes that's better done at night when your body is working better and when you're breathing better, or broken up, like half of it one day, half of it the next day, just so that you're actually doing it healthily. Like that's how I would recommend with those big routines. But then, so like there's that, and also like I practice down the octave. Like most everything that I play down the octave first.
Oh, wow.
And I'll do a lot of things that are nuanced. I'll do it on the mouthpiece first, or I'll do it slurred first. I only do like the big loud high stuff. I'll only do it maybe once or twice in its actual octave. I'll just practice all the other things first. Like you can get a lot of work done on like Beethoven 7 down.
Yeah, I remember, like, that's
the
exactly what I was just going to say, is you
yeah.
had, like, I played Beethoven 7 for you, and, like, you're like, have you ever played this down the octave? I was like, why would I do that?
What?
You're like, because it helps. You're like, oh, it just didn't
like
occur
the
to me.
air and the phrasing and the tonguing and the rhythm. Like,
just like a, you know, 20-something-year-old guy. I was like, oh, I can do it. I can do it. Like, well, yeah.
I'm going to do it 25 times in a row. No, but I think sometimes when we practice the same thing over and over again up in the correct octave, I think we just beat our face in, and then that's upsetting, because then you can't do it anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't do it physically enough to solve the problem that you're trying to solve by practicing it. And then you're tired and you're not helping fix the problem. So if you work on it, for me, I'll keep this on me. When I'm working on it down the octave, and you know, I really can listen to the rhythm. I can really take that time to dissect it and really work on the intonation. Then when I take it up the octave, I can just do it like 2 or 3 times, and then I can save my face for other practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even like, yeah, I mean, and same thing for doing something on the mouthpiece or doing it slurred, or you can do like like putting subdivision inside things, or doing like Beethoven on the natural horn. There's all these practice techniques, and I think the more varied we use our practice techniques, the less on the face we're being, because we're being more thoughtful, because each time you use a practice technique, you're doing it towards a particular goal, instead of just, I'm going to do that again because it wasn't good. Because I think whenever we do that, like we tend to take a bad breath and we're kind of tight and we're frustrated and we're just like, So yeah, I like to try to dissect things a little bit more. And I think that goes to efficiency, but also like just keeping your brain like going towards flutter tongue. Yes, exactly, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, flutter tongue or stopped. Like there's a million ways to practice stuff. So I think, you know, like slower, getting faster, you know, all these. But yeah, I think in general, like then also in orchestra, I think we overdo it when we have, especially as students, when we have like 11 rehearsals for the same piece, your brain just turns off and you're just like, okay, whatever. And he just made us do it 4 times, like, ugh, you know, and you don't take a good breath and you don't use your air well, and you're not open and you're not relaxed in your shoulders. Like I do a lot of stretching in rehearsals and kind of, you know, just putting my hand on my stomach to make sure I'm actually breathing and using my whole torso, and kind of wiggling around just to keep myself open. And I'll like, in orchestra, in order to not overdo it on my face, I'll put a couple of goals. Like I'm going to see how can I match the articulation with, you know, this group of like the brass, or match the phrasing with the strings, or, you know, see about the balance underneath the woodwinds. Like I think if you put different goals underneath your orchestral playing, then you're thinking more, and you're not just kind of mindlessly blowing, or something physical. Like I'm going to take a good breath every single freaking time. In this whole big loud page, which we've done now 3 times, I'm going to take the best breath I know how, and I'm going to use my air, pace it the absolutely perfect way, and see if I can keep it off my face and not in tight shoulders. Like goals.
I mean, I know for me, like some of those long pieces, like Shostakovich 7, you know, like that's long and loud. It's just hard to like, all right, go from point A to point B, or like even Prokofiev 3. We were doing that on tour. It's like, just how long can I go and play a full out? And it's like, it's kind of a dumb, that would be my like stupidest goal to have. Just how loud can I play and how long can I play? So like if I can think about like musically phrasing, where can I get a good breath? Like where can I trade off and, you know, give the assistant some rest? So I guess
all of that.
for me, what lessons would you like to share with students? And I would love for you to think about, like, as a high school student, what would you wish you've known? As a college student, what would you wish you've known? As a young professional, what would you wish you've known? Like, what
Hmm.
lessons would you teach yourself as a high schooler?
Huh. I think as a high schooler, I think I wish I had known um, just the benefit of just keeping on. Like of, I think I used to get very, very frustrated, like huge roller coaster mood swings about what was coming out of my bell, and
Mm,
not kind of realizing that just by putting in the time and just keep on, like I was so frustrated because I had no low register. I was so frustrated because my middle register tonguing wasn't good, my upper register strength wasn't good, my just nothing. It's like whenever I would hit a roadblock, it was hard to just like push, just like keep on walking the path,
hmm.
and trusting that like just by putting in the time and by putting in the effort, it's going to get there, and try to use your resources the best you can, and try to just enjoy it along the way. I think that was the major thing in like high school into early college, that
Yeah.
I wish I sort of had the hindsight of knowing that.
Yeah. Just
Um,
enjoy it, right? Enjoy the
yeah,
process.
like, right, like enjoy the process so that it's not based off of like I just like I want to be good enough, or I want to, you know, make my teacher proud or whatever, just like to be part of the process of it. Process is so hard. Like we get kind of worried about outcome,
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah,
hard to just enjoy
absolutely.
the process of anything.
Right.
So I think that's the thing with high school. I think with college, in college, I think I wish I had known that to be a young professional, it's about finding your own voice and
Mm,
to find what you as a person want to bring. Like we chose this field because we wanted to
yeah.
be in the world of music, and we wanted to like, add something
Dedic-
beautiful to the world. And
dedicate ourselves to it, and we love it.
right, because we
Yeah.
value that as an
Yeah.
art form and as something that's great. And whether it's teaching students and helping them find their voice, or if it's playing in any setting, it's like, I guess I wish as in college I had realized that it doesn't matter whether you're playing in a major orchestra or you're, you know, teaching at a university and helping all these amazing young people
Or
be the best they
teaching,
can
like,
be, or be a
teaching.
freelancer, or yeah,
Yeah,
what?
absolutely. Teaching like middle school students, that's
Yeah,
like a gift. Like teaching, like,
exactly. Like,
thank God for my beginning teacher. I wouldn't be here if it wouldn't have been for him.
yeah,
And
it's like our field is all gorgeous and has all the same goals, and all the same things that we can bring to the world through music can
yeah.
be attained beautifully in every part of the
And
field.
also, I
And I
think,
guess I wish I had known that.
when we're talking about that, I think, like, whatever path your life takes, like, so we all, love music, right? And there, some people just don't get jobs in music, right? And some people go on to other things, but this dedication, this love, like this, like, we can strive for excellence in all, like, art forms, right? Or
Yeah,
all forms. I can be the best dishwasher I can be. Like,
right.
that was part of my story. I was a dishwasher and I loved it. I was like,
Yeah,
and I learned how to wash those dishes quick, and I was like, part of the team. And I was like, if those dishes didn't get done, like that, the cook wouldn't have a plate to put, the
yeah,
dishes on,
right.
or put the dish on. So, I was like an important part of the team, and I took that really seriously. And just
Yeah,
whatever I do, just do the best you can do at that.
that's a big gift. My dad actually was big on that. It's
Yeah.
like if you like turquoise marbles, you're going to find people that love turquoise marbles, and you guys are going to collect them and bring joy to all of the turquoise marble lovers of the world. It's just like,
Oh,
oh, I love that. Yeah. And also like that your voice is a beautiful thing you can add to the world. Like even if you phrase things differently than what your teacher told you to, or even if, it's like even if you think you're bad at things, you've got something beautiful. Like what you think is bad might be something that other people think is gorgeous. And
yeah.
it's like just all of that, like honor your own self and your own contributions, even
Yeah.
if they
And then
don't seem
also,
as sexy or fancy as whatever the stupid world seems to value.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know
I mean, but also too, like, don't be hard on yourself, right? Like,
yeah,
don't be like, we all have high standards as musicians, or I'll keep this on me. I have high standards as a musician, but like, just because I didn't hit that today, or I fell short, doesn't mean that it's not worthy of sharing. Doesn't mean it's not, like, good enough, or it makes me a bad person. It just means that, hey, like this is just another area to grow, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
Yeah, I love the idea of separating out honoring your self-worth in one direction and honoring the beauty that is in your life in one little compartmentalization bucket, and then the other, and then striving as a separate thing, like striving to be the best you can in your, like as a separate thing.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
it's fun. It's like
what have been some of like your
music.
favorite memories of playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra? Like what are like some of your favorite concerts, favorite conductors, favorite pieces?
Well, I guess I mean, so when I first got to Philly, we played Mahler 4. It was the first thing we did in Carnegie, and it was amazing because I drove up for some reason. I forget why. I don't know. I think I might have been meeting Julie or something at her house. Anyway, I got in a car accident on the way up there. I got in a fender bender on the way, and the airbag deployed, and so it like hit my lip, and it was like sort of sagging. Which was ridiculous. And so like I had like air escaping out the side of my mouth. And it's like, October of my first season with Philadelphia Orchestra. And so I was going back and forth from St. Louis to Philly my first season. And so like, I was kind of like stressed out anyway, like just starting this new job. And then I think I had just gotten back from a trip out there. And I think, so I think I was sort of out of it. And I think I was concentrating and I was listening to Mahler 4 in the car. So I was spacing. So I rear-ended this person, had that whole thing happen. And then, so then I had to play Mahler 4, like, with air escaping out my side of my mouth. And it was funny because it was very memorable in that I was trying to figure out, what do I do with this? And my normal thing would be to like tell everybody and get like reassurances from everyone that it was going to be okay and you're going to be great. And then I was like, that feels wrong and stupid. Okay, no, I'm not going to do that. So I went in like a room and I did a bunch of yoga and I kind of tried to focus, and I was like, all right, mind over matter. Like, it's going to be great. I know what I want to do and it's going to be great. And then I played and it was fine. But it was such a big deal because then at the end, like, Dan Williams, who's second horn, he was like, as the applause was happening, he was like, what was that sound? Was that you? And I was like, what sound? And he was like, the leaky tire. What on earth happened? And then I like told him, so like the applause is going on and I'm like basically weeping, trying to explain to him, like, through like a fake smile, like what had happened. I was like, well, I got rear-ended because I was spacing out in the car. And he was like, wow. He was like,
wow.
And Bill, like, it was just like, oh my gosh. And it was like, sounded pretty good. I was like,
amazing.
Oh my God. And I was like, I love you for supporting me. I love you for not making a big deal about it. And like, it just felt like, okay, I've like, me and my imperfect person has found an orchestra where I will be supported no matter what. It was memorable because it was hard. It was memorable because it was scary and stupid and ridiculous. And then it was memorable because I was like, man, like good colleagues can make you feel so loved. And like, it's okay. Even, it's like, if this is a big striving field that we're going to be playing a bunch of things throughout our life, like even if you have a concert where you've got, a leaky tire air, coming out of your mouth, like it's still, like it's still okay, and tomorrow will be another concert. It's like, it was good in a lot of different ways.
Well, thanks for sharing that story with us, Jen. And in parting, I think this would be a great place for us to close. But would you mind just kind of sharing why music and the arts are so important to you, and what do you think music can do? Why it should be, so important right now, especially now?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, it's important to me because I don't know, I think there's this beautiful world of people, and as musicians we get to play with other people, we get to be on a team with other people, we get to like play for and to people, and it's like, it's such a beautiful, it's something that can bring happiness to yourself and everybody around you. Like, it's what we all love about it. For me, it's just really, really fun and like just a blast. Like, I love that. But I think like right now, I think it's hard because I think I think everybody kind of in a way, like, I want to be a doctor. I want to actually be helping, like I think we all want to like do something important to help the world in tough times. And I think it's hard being an artist, but I think maybe we have to trust that any beautiful contribution is a beautiful contribution. So like if we try to, you know, like even if it's just, you know, playing a little tune off your balcony, or playing, you know, putting together a quartet of yourself playing with yourself and putting it out there, you're going to put a smile on somebody's face. And like, that's what music can do. And that's what you can do. So it's like, yeah, somebody just wrote beautiful vulnerability. And I think that is exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's like beautiful, loving vulnerability. And we all have the capability to give that. So like,
wow. Thank you so much, Jen. It's so great to see you. I mean, I'm just so grateful for you being a part of my career, being a part of my, you know, group of friends. And, you know, it's just, yeah, I mean, just really great to, like, you know, get a chance to spend time with you today. So
likewise, you are a gorgeous inspiration to me and all of us. So
yeah, love you, Jen. See you later. Big
bye.
hugs.
Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you to all of us, and yeah, one last shout out to, you know, Philadelphia Orchestra, Jen Montone, and all of you who watched. You know, John Bruce, yeah, John Hamill in Japan, all of our friends.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love our field. Like all
yeah, I know.
It's so great.
So awesome. I'll see you soon. Okay.
Bye. See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Thanks.
Thank you.